Ooh, how many we need? Oh, I need one more for that. Oh, Zapper Overload. Everybody loves Zapper Overload, right? Right? You know what? We're going to do Zapper Overload. And I'm going to clip it so that, or highlight it so that people can see how I do Zapper Overload. Because everybody hates Zapper Overload. Everybody does it in the background. Alright, so the issue with Zapper Overload, only champions with a strength of 13 or higher can be used. In areas 1 through 40, the Demon Zapper is overcharged, overloading, and targeting the champions. Champions zap, take damage, and are affected by one of the following effects. Teleport. The champion's removed from the formation. That's the one everybody hates. Seer. The champion takes 50% more damage from the beam for each champion adjacent to them. Enfeeble. The champion's damage drops to 0 for the next 30 seconds. So people hate the teleport one. People hate the teleport one. So here's what we're going to do. And here's what I recommend. You build out your formation. Oh, son of a... Where's the Zapper? It's not even here. Alright. Well, I'm going to figure out my formation. I'm going to build out my formation first. Zapper's broken. It's not even showing up on screen. Rigged. Rigged. Who do I want? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, sure. Am I not going to... Oh, we can do Dragon Bait. Okay. It's like, am I not going to have a tank? How many tanks do I have? 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Okay. Is this the most annoying variant in the game right now? I think a lot of people feel that way about it. Yeah. A lot of people feel that way about it. I don't know that I care so much. I mean, it's annoying. Here's the thing. It's only 1 through 40, so what we can do is we can just... Here, we can turn progress back on. So I guess this is, here's me showing you kind of a better way to do this. Let me... Oh, I don't have any speed, but I don't need any power right now, so let's just get some levels on my core. So, again, it's not every level that you get zapped. There's supposed to be a zapper showing up on the screen right here. Maybe we should... Hold on, let's change levels, and then I'm going to try to reset the game state so that the zapper shows up. Let's switch parties and switch back again. A lot of people just... No, it's not... It doesn't... There's usually a big zapper here, right? Am I misremembering? Or isn't there just usually a big zapper here? I don't know. Anyway. A lot of people just set up their formation and then do this offline. Or in the background. Is it only show up in the later areas? Alright. It's been a while since I've done this. Because apparently in the background it doesn't do the zappy thing. Hey Vorkara. Welcome. Zapper's buggy for me. I keep getting stuck with a boss level where I've killed a boss but it doesn't advance. That's a lot of places, but I hear it happens in Zapper a lot too. Almost ready for Ray Reborn, just trying to find out the formation. Same. Oh, I guess I gotta have some people in for this. Yeah, I mean, it's hits-based, but still. Okay. Hey, look, they zapped somebody out again. Let's try to somewhat put things in some kind of silly formation. Or Kira, get out there. Oh, they removed. We want them out. We want them out. Sure. Sure. Now, real quick. Save. Save. Okay, did it save? Hey, it saved. That's all I gotta have it in. Zapper overload. Save. And let's make it 3. Okay. That's it. I'm done. That's the hard part. Literally the hardest part of Zapper Overload is building a formation and saving it. Now I'm going to come up here. I don't know which one of these I'm going to do. What is everybody here? Everybody here is chaotic, probably. Now that I've got everybody to their... Oh no, do I have everybody in? Yes. Overwrite. Overwrite. Okay. The hardest part of Zapper Overload is getting your formation saved. Because now, all I have to do, whenever we switch levels, is hit the button to reload my formation after they've removed somebody. This is what people don't like, because they literally have to babysit this mission from... Oh, I didn't save with that part. They literally have to babysit this mission from start to finish and hit the button. And people don't want to do that. And I get it. Like, it's an idle game. Well, yeah, it's... They put it in the title, but... It's a formation strategy management game. Right? Yeah. So it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. There we go. I'm overriding because I got my upgrade in, and I just in case. That's just my OCD. Always save your formation after you get your upgrades. Not that I'm ever going to do this again. All right, yeah. Now we can put some speed on, put some stank on it, and we're good. And you know, eventually I can just... Oh, there it goes. It went away. Now, I can't, until I complete this level, I can't bring him back. But once we switch levels, I'll bring him back. So now, I switch levels, I hit my reload button, I load my formation in, and I'm good. So, saving formations and fire breath potions, because if, like that, they pull out your DPS, you have to rely on fire breath click kills to kill everything. Go. So just hitting that every now and then works. I think that one variant, while you're available, champs switch every 25 areas, is much worse than this one. Yeah. Honestly, so do I. So do I. Because this I can manage. This I can manage. I have a very clear goal, and that's just save my formation. Like, 1, save my formation. 2, reload it after I complete an area. That's it. That's it. On the one where the usable champions change every 25 areas, you have to find a place where you have to, as you're going along, save formations. Every 25 areas, you have to rebuild a new formation. And then you have to save that formation and know that you can jump back to potentially Bud Spike there. Because later, you may not have enough champions to clear, so you've got to use that hopping thing. And sometimes, especially if you're using speed potions, you die so fast on the level switch, you can't load in champions. And when you go back a level, it goes back to the old ones that were available. It's just really problematic. And then after you spend your entire time doing that, a variant, you get hundreds of levels in, because there is an armored boss. If you get to a certain point and you don't have a tank champion as an available option, you're done and you have to start over. There's no way to beat it. Because you can't tank the enemies. There's no way to keep them away. You can't click through 50 armored segments. You're just done and you got to start over and try again and hope for better RNG the next time. Because it's truly random every time you try it. That, to me, is the most annoying variant in the game. This one is manageable. What's going on, everyone? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, Formation Strategy Management Champions just doesn't have the same ring to it. Right, yeah, I mean, they were targeting idle players with a unique variation on an idle style game, which it is, but it isn't 100% idle in like a cookie clicker, right? It can get more idle as you get more automation aspects, right? Some people script. Like it can be an idle style game, but there are also very manual play mechanics to it, and thus also variants that require, you know, you being here. I think honestly, if I set this up with a macro on my keyboard that just hits that button every like 5 seconds, I could hands off it. But that means I can't do anything else. That's why I don't like running scripts or macros. I miss the days of Star Wars Galaxies where you could build in-game macros as abilities and fire them off, and they would run as however you programmed them. God, that was so much fun. Like, that's how you do in-game automation. You give the ability to have like commands for things that happen, and then you just type the commands in the order that you want, with delay timers and all kinds of things, and then you save it as an ability, and then you just hit that ability, and then you just have to have a clear ability that clears any and all macros that you created. God, that was wonderful. Yeah, it was wonderful. During last Sunday stream, I finally got around to doing some click debuff runs and broke the 1,000 barrier. Nice, Monkey House. I was trying to do some click debuff without crawl to see if it worked. And it probably does with enough favor, but I don't know. If you don't have... I had E30 in every other debuff champion on my main account and just couldn't make any progress without crawl. But I was at like level 900, so I was just trying to see if I could get a little further. There's a video guide for click debuff. Yeah, and there's a written guide. Cyrus Dane has a written version of it. So, like, that's what my video guide is based off, is Cyrus Dane's guide. Star Wars Galaxy is one of the misses that I regret the most. Man. It's one of those things where you're like, oh, I mean, I don't ignore all the problems the game have. It definitely had a lot of problems, but there were specific things about that game that you can really highlight as just fantastic that I haven't seen quite in that combination again, and I haven't really seen in-game macros. I don't play a lot of different MMOs anymore, but I don't feel like they have to be limited. Like, I feel like in a game like Idle Champions, like an in-game macro system would be fantastic. We have automation, but I don't know. They've chosen the road that they're going to travel, and that is to use familiars with the Modrons. So, but yeah, I mean, if a game ever lent itself to building an in-game macro system, Idle Champions is it. But also, man, bioengineering and creature handling, those systems in Star Wars Galaxies, fledgling at first, but then they got some serious updates that just made them just wonderful, and I've never seen anything like it, or heard of anything like it since. There's probably something out there that's based off of it. The ability to be and exist as fully a non-combat character in an MMO. I mean, come on. Like, MMOs are built around action and fighting things, and Star Wars Galaxies, you could be a full entertainer or a full crafter. You could literally not craft anything but be a merchant and sell, buy and sell things, and you could be a doctor. I mean, bioengineer. Like, you could just have crafting characters. And for some of the coolest in-game stuff, you would have to drag those crafting characters into the hardest dungeon in the game, and protect them and keep them alive while they crafted through a timed crafting system. It was fantastic. I loved it. That was to make Mandalorian armor. If you wanted to make Mandalorian armor, you had to go into the Death Watch bunker with with a group of highly trained combat specialists and a crafter who had to make the stuff and do all these different things while everyone else is in combat and keep them from dying. And then when you were done, you got a randomly generated, like you could pick the piece of armor you were trying to make, like whether it was like, you know, the shoulder piece or the helm or the jetpack or whatever. But the armor got generated in a random color combination. So you, so people with, you know, the first full set of Mandalorian armor. I remember seeing pictures on each server as they would get their first full set, somebody with a full set. And it was like total clown armor because it was, yeah, patchwork Mandalorian. Like it was just different colors, right? But that was, I mean, that was almost the amazing part of it is, you know, did you want a full matching color set? Like if you ever saw somebody walking around with matching pieces, it was like, oh, holy right? Like this person, like their group, their guild, whatever, they've got the Death Watch bunker on lock. Like, yeah, it was a incredibly challenging thing to do, and it was so much fun. But yeah, that kind of stuff. I haven't heard about. You know, nowadays MMOs, you can pick up crafting, but you're also a high level combatant, so the challenge in like going into some mega dungeon and having to craft while also being in combat, you know, a little bit of that, a little bit of the fear is gone because you're going in, you know, fully armored and with capabilities. Crafter in Star Wars Galaxies didn't have that. You could buff them up. You could buff them up and give them a lot of health, but then they had to have a pocket healer if they were getting attacked, and you had people had to draw aggro, and yeah. Finally made it past 1,000 with click debuff this event. I'm running out of clear goals. Got to make some new ones. Yeah. Yeah. I don't. 1,000 was my only kind of clear goal for like how far I went, simply because there was an achievement for it. Once I got the achievement, I lost any interest on pushing super far. How about you could write macros, but they require familiars to run them? I mean, sure. Yeah, like I could totally see a macro system where based off the things you wanted to trigger, like you could set the delays, but then you had to have familiars on them, and the familiars would respect the delays and only hit it at the delay, and they would run the macro, and thus you would require the more complex of a macro you wanted, the more familiars you need. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that that's something CNE would ever do. Be real cool, in my opinion. I mean, ultimately, it's built-in scripts, right? But I mean, if you know people are going to script in your game anyway, then why not just built in a way for people to do it, but have it be part of the game and something that, you know, I don't know. Gory, newish player trying to unlock a Zoc. Is it better to run to my wall in every variant to build favor or free plays? Don't run to your wall in variants, ever. Yeah, as a general rule of thumb. There might be one or two variants out there where you might be able to push further than normal, but it's not worth trying to, unless you can tell what that is, don't bother. Just run your variant to conclusion. You do free plays for favor. I want to say to unlock a Zaka, it's like, what did I say in my guide? E18? E18 to E20, somewhere in there. I can't remember. I have to look it up. But I have a guide for that. Yeah. You're just going to want like E23 for Dragon Bait. Rect says E18, so there you go. I think the MMO space has just moved on. Gaming's very different now. We'll probably never see the likes of it again from a cultural standpoint. Maybe, because it was a sandbox MMO, right? After World of Warcraft arrived, which is very much like a theme park MMO where you're on rails. sandbox MMOs just kind of, they're out there, but they're very niche. They have small communities that enjoy them very much, but they'll never, you know, they'll never be as popular on the same scale. To be popular, something like an Eve or Dark Age of Camelot or something, you have to have been around for a long time and have already drawn in those core people that want that, right? But you're playing, and in some cases you're playing just for nostalgia because this was the MMO that you always played. But I haven't seen, there will never be a large major MMO like that probably again. It will be something that starts off small and then just for whatever reason blows up. Those non-combat aspects of the game sounded amazing. Apparently you could just be a farmer if you wanted. Oh yeah. When I first started out, I fully did the whole moisture farming on Tatooine thing. 100%. 100%. Because you made good money off of it. That's it. Planting, like everybody could have harvesters of different kinds. Everybody. And you had a certain number of slots. And people would literally pay you to rent your harvesting slots. Like, hey, just go place these and put me, in this. I'll give you a waypoint. You place them as best you can in this area, and just put me on admin, and I will pay you X amount of money every week, just to rent your harvester slots, and then I'll let you know if they need to be when they need to be moved. People would do that. I got mega rich, not mega rich. I got a lot of money early on in the game by someone saying, "Hey, look, our guild is looking for more people to play stuff," and I was at that point I was like the Hermit of Locke being one of the planets, and they're like, "Look, we need people that play stuff here. You're always here. Would you consider we'll give you these mega harvesters for free? You just give us half of whatever comes out of them, and we trust you. That's it. You can keep the rest and do whatever you want with it." And I was like, hell yeah. So I was all about that Loki and wild wheat, which was like a medical, something you needed for medical crafting. And I needed that I was a doctor. So I was all in. I made a lot of money off that. But yeah. I wish an MMO would bring back the full on non-healing support role. Yeah, I don't know. You really have to build a world that people want to live in. And that's the thing about Star Wars Galaxy, is that world already existed. It was the Star Wars universe, right? You could just be a farmer or an entertainer. And originally that was what they advertised it as. But then people that are high up were like, nobody wants to just do this all day. That's why we changed it. And it's like, did you say? We loved doing that. Like I had a whole guild on another server it was called the Wookiees of Wanderhome. And we literally just, because Wanderhome was our main server, but we literally just rolled role play characters that were Wookiees that were entertainers. We would log in over there and we would spend the entire evening just doing choreographed dance routines to songs. Like we had names like Aretha Franklin and just like we went on all old school musicians. God, ADHD brain. I just lost all the names in that moment. James Brown, and we had a blast. People tipped up so much money. Like we were full on entertainment on that server for people. It was awesome. Yeah. Sometimes management just doesn't have a clue what players are actually enjoying. They look at the numbers and they're like, well, it's a very small number. So those people might be the core of some guild that's full of people. And when you remove that, you lose everybody else, right? Like you never know what dominoes you're toppling by knocking one over in a situation like that. Just got full epics except for Dahani. Guess it's time to raise the floor. Yep. I am back to full epics except for Dahani. And my average item level floor is now 100 on my main account. Haggis and Cine seems pretty confused about their own game, like with them saying on a dev stream that they don't want people to micromanage, that they have a lot of systems in place that reward micromanaging. Yeah. Yeah. Because the thing is they don't, here's what I think happens, is they create these things and they don't expect people to micromanage them. They expect people just to choose and set it and just go play and deal with it the way it is. But that's not, yeah. It's not really how the community works. So it's less that they're confused about the game. They know the game that they're making. They're confused about how the community interacts with their game. They don't seem to necessarily always understand that. Yeah. Oh, the topic of Star Wars Galaxies. We kind of got there. I don't know how we got there. How did we get... I don't remember. I was talking about macros. Yeah. Macros. Clearly, everyone wants to be a Jedi. Oh, yeah, that was... So there's now been postmortems on this, right? Like a postmortem in the video game industry is basically after you've completed a project or something, you do a behind-the-scenes discussion on it. Usually these are targeted at other game studios. It's something that game studios want to read up on, so that other game designers can learn from whatever you did. A lot of the times they're not. A lot of times they're almost from some studios treat them partly as marketing, and they won't necessarily be super honest about the problems that they faced at the time. But the longer it's been since something happened, the more honest those stories get. So it's been a while, and people have talked. It's been a while. People have talked a lot about, especially Rafe Koster, who was one of the major designers back then and who still does MMO stuff today. They've done a lot of kind of post-mortem talks about this stuff. And one of the things they talked about was that was 100%. People thought this was just Sony wanting more Jedis in the game. No, that was a Lucasfilm decision. Whoever was in charge there, they thought people want to be a Jedi, and it's like, no, not really. They really thought that when they designed the Jedi system as this hidden Easter egg, I guess Lucasfilm thought that whoever was in charge of the project of Lucasfilm thought that would be a major goal that people would want, and that it would drive like people to really get involved in the game and play it tons and to try to get Jedi. And when it didn't happen, when there weren't any, they were like, we need to change this and force it. It's got to happen. It's got to happen faster. Yeah. They're in charge. They get to make the choices. But yeah. I heard if you died as a Jedi, you were permanently dead. In the original version of Jedi, yeah. It was a permadeath system. Yeah. It meant people went off and ground out levels in secret, because if anybody saw you, that threw you on the end game, that threw you on the actual bounty hunter boards. Like, you could be a bounty hunter in Star Wars Galaxy. Most of the time you were just chasing down NPCs. You're running NPC bounties. But if you were a Jedi and you got seen by NPCs or actual players using your powers or your lightsaber, you got visibility and you ended up on the bounty system. And bounty hunters would track you down, and if they killed you, that was it. It was permadeath. You had to start that character over from scratch. What's going on, Maelstrom? Later on, they changed it. Later on, they changed it to a huge experience loss. And then people like my buddy and I min-maxed that and found out that, hey, if you just grind on NPCs, like insta-spawning NPCs in these certain areas of the world, or huge farms and groups, like, we figured out, look, if you can kill X number of things in an hour, even if you got hunted once a day and die and lost that fight, it's still worth it. It's still worth it. And thus gave rise to us literally running public Jedi grind groups. and training people, training Jedi who had spent their whole experience in Star Wars Galaxies thinking that you have to run from bounty hunter fights, teaching them how to beat the crap out of bounty hunters. Because the bounty hunters they had gotten complacent. They thought every Jedi would run, and they started coming after me and my friends, and we just beat them down in front of a group. And that kind of changed the whole experience. Changed the whole experience. Because the original Jedi, you had to start a completely new character. It wasn't your main character. That they didn't become a Jedi. You started a whole other character, and you could keep that character hidden from everyone if you wanted. No one had to know you had them. But then they turned it into your character becomes force sensitive and can then train up in these powers. And that was the point where everything shifted and you just lost some experience. You weren't permadead anymore. And yeah, it was a whole other game at that point. And we manipulated the hell out of that game. At this point, CNation realizes if there's a way to maximize games from mechanic, community will find it. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think there's just... I think that the issue that I have right now is less that they create characters that have flaws that cause problems in the game, because that's just... I mean, look, the more and more you try to build characters, the more you're trying to do stuff, you can't always theory craft every potential combination. There's over 80 champions in the game, and what you have to do is just try to build a fun champion and then go from there. So the issue is less that they let in problematic characters, or that eventually it's more that eventually a character is has a high chance of becoming problematic, and you have to react to that in a timely manner. And I don't know what's happened lately, but they used to react in a more timely manner, and we haven't had any updates on things in a long time. So that makes you just think that, well, then they're fine with the system. But yeah, I don't know. The longer you leave a problematic feature, feature or combination or whatever in a game, the harder it is for you to change it without causing massive uproar. So it'd be nice if they were a little quicker in that regard. Jedi were meant to be something special to achieve, to a certain degree. If that was the thing, is the original Star Wars Galaxy was, if I remember the box art correctly, and I think I've got the boxes in the garage still. It was something like the greatest story ever told, yours, right? Like that was the key. It was you could tell whatever story you wanted for your character. So if you wanted that to be one of becoming a Jedi, sure. But if you didn't, it didn't matter. Like you could go out and you could just be an entertainer. You could be the greatest entertainer your server had ever known. Right? Like my buddy was the best weaponsmith and armorsmith, but really weapons were what he was known for on our server. Period. Even private guilds, he got in on day one. He knew how to manipulate the market and the system and collect all the resources and play the resource game, and he went all in everything he could from the beginning, and then just his publicly sold weapons were the best stuff in the game that you could buy, and better than most people could create. His private stock, good Lord, he got reported multiple times because he would get into a PvP fight and one shot or two shot someone, and they'd report him for having a broken weapon. And no, he just always kept the best stuff for himself and his alts. He loaned one of his power hammers to me one time when I was bodyguarding for him when he was doing Jedi grinds before I tried to do the Jedi thing. And I would just sit on this one spawn near where he was at that was this timed spawn that could occasionally drop really nice stuff. But you always had to compete with other people. And I would beat groups of 3 and 4 people by myself with that weapon to get the loot, because whoever did the highest damage got the loot, and people would be utterly shocked. They would be like, "We killed it and it dropped me. Thing must be broken," and I'd just be chuckling. I'm like, "No, I got the loot. I outdamaged you." It's just reality. I love the crafting system in that game because it was so much based on. It was its own unique system and was the delivery system for the best weapons in the game. And that, to me, that's how a weapons and armor crafting should be. Like loot stuff. Loot, like send combat people should go out and loot great things that they then sell on the open market for outrageous amounts of money to a weaponsmith, who then puts it into an item, or an armorsmith, who turns it into items and then sells that for even more outrageous amounts of money, right? That's how SWG worked. It was a lot of fun. Having Lucasfilm overrule decisions sounds like a hard thing to happen. Well, look, here's the thing. IP holders control what happens in your game. If you use somebody else's IP, not only do you have to run everything you choose to do in the game by them for approval, they can tell you what they want. If they want something, they can tell you what they want. How do you think we got nerds in Idle Champions? You know? That's, yeah. So, Eliwick happened in Idle Champions. Nerds happened in Idle Champions. These were major tie-ins that Wizards was like, hey, we're doing these promotions and we'd like you to do this. And you go, sure, okay. Because that's how IPs work. So more often than not, when you're playing an IP-controlled game and the developer isn't necessarily doing the things you would like, it's not necessarily them controlling it and making those decisions. I used to play Warhammer Online and all the time, right? And man, Games Workshop back then was super controlling about anything you did with their IP, and like everything had to be approved. Yeah, I heard lots of stories about that. It was, all kinds of fun things that the devs wanted to put in that the community would have absolutely loved, and Warhammer's like, nah, that's not really the Warhammer feel, so you don't get to do that. Or Games Workshop. Yeah. Then they went all Oprah. You get a Jedi. You get a Jedi. You all get Jedi. Yeah, no, they made Jedi a starting class in the game, and everything kind of went downhill from there. Right? There was no, like, even when it was the other way, and you had to go to, there was like a village, a Force-sensitive village, and then you had to earn through a neat story arc that involved a lot of crafting and stuff, but also actually going out and killing like a really difficult opponent. Like, they made a really neat story arc system for you to become Force sensitive, like to recognize your Force sensitivity and become a Jedi. That at least made it something you had to work towards, and thus be an earned system, right? And yeah, that was neat. But when it was just like, oh, you just start the game and you're a Jedi, like right away, it was like, like at that point, it just didn't fit the timeline that the game was in, which was like, original trilogy style timeline. So yeah. One time I played a tabletop Star Wars game. I wanted to play a character who would start to awaken Force abilities and dream of being a Jedi but never get there. Yeah. I mean, that is a compelling character arc, right? J-Mick just got their first full epic yesterday. Nice. Gar, the legendary Jedi trainer. No, I was, for the longest time, I was what would be the Jedi bodyguard. Basically, my friends that had, back when there was like started early on when there was Jedi was a hidden thing and you wanted to be away from people. One of my friends in the game told me, I have a Jedi account, I've been leveling up, that's why I'm not on a lot. But they were on a lot, they just weren't on their main that I knew to interact with, right? And they couldn't, it was just rough, right? So they were out farming on lock where I was, and and they're like, I just need somebody to come in when like at the time I had switched into like two-handed like power hammer type, the big heavy thing that attacked mind pools, because there were 3 different pools that you could attack in combat. And bounty hunters always came in spamming thing like abilities that would consume their mind pool. So it was very easy for me to sweep in when they were under attack, go after them. Like they would just ping their coordinates, and I would go fly in on a speeder, hop off, and just do a headshot, on this guy with this big hammer on a bounty hunter, and just one shot them, maybe 2 shot them, and then my friend could go back to doing his thing, because that cleared his bounty off the board. I did that a lot. Hey, they need to fix this. I did that for a long time for multiple different people, and to me that was a blast. Did Eloit come about from the Magic the Gathering set? Yes. That's exactly where she came from. So it was part of the D&D x MTG crossover, as a planeswalker. So, crossing her over into Idle Champions was the thing. Games Workshop is still super controlling about their IP, aren't they? Not as much anymore. I mean, there's still certain things they want, but what they have come to understand is that the people that are usually trying to make games in that IP understand the IP and may get a little flexible with it, but they've learned that it's much better overall for the overall perception and growth of their IP for them to allow that flexibility than to just be super restrictive over it. So there's a lot more Games Workshop, like Warhammer type games out now than there ever were before, and they're built by large studios, small studios. They all offer kind of a different perspective on that Warhammer experience. And that just never would have happened. But it just didn't happen before, because they were so put off by the whole World of Warcraft thing. That they just got super controlling. So, yeah. So much filler gets made along with some great games. Well, that's because they've opened it up, right? They've opened it up a lot more. They're still trying to find that sweet spot, and in that case, sometimes games get made that are just kind of like, eh. But as long as they're kind of true to Warhammer, even if they're not super enjoyable, at least they're trying, whereas before they just wouldn't even bother to try. I believe she's in the new Witchlight book too. Yeah, I got it on D&D Beyond, and I haven't had time to read through it. I'm reading other things. Did you play any other idle games? No, not currently. I play this on 2 accounts. I feel like that's enough. Yeah. I'm kind of highly invested in Idle Champions. I did see, though, that Far Cry 6 is either out or coming out soon. Not an idle game, but it's like the only first-person shooter style game that one of the only ones that I enjoy, because it has that RPG element. So like it and Mass Effect are 2 that I've enjoyed. I was a little disappointed in the ending of the last one. I was super excited about the kind of premise of it, and then super disappointed by the ending. That was a real bummer. So hopefully, like, this one's supposed to be more of like guerrilla style overthrowing of a government of an island nation type thing. Yeah, I mean, I think they do interesting different takes on things, but hopefully they don't script the story. Tempted to pick that up. I just don't know when I'd play it. Ironically, the official line from the Magic side of things is that none of the Planeswalkers from the Forgotten Realms set are actually Planeswalkers the way others have been in the canon. Yeah. Well, I mean, it was just that I don't know that. Well, so there's D&D has the concept of there being. Oops, that was the wrong thing. Has the concept of there being other planes, right? That's, I mean, there's the plane of fire and the plane of air. So, somebody who travels the planes, Eliwick is somebody who travels the planes. And I use the term planeswalker because that's the Magic the Gathering term, but that is the kind of the equivalent of a planeswalker in Magic the Gathering. We may see more of that crossover, but what Wizards seems to be diving into is that, everything kind of stands on its own, and it doesn't have to cross over into any other world. So you don't have to do that. Whatever you want to do at your table is canon for you and your table, which I didn't think needed to be explained, but apparently does. Yeah. I always felt like your table's your table. Do whatever you want, but people apparently get real upset if things don't go per canon at their table. Okay, well, that's your table. You can do that. I don't get mad that you want to do that at your table. Fire Blast with AFK Arena, another Necromunda higher gun. Yeah, I haven't even heard of those. I mean, the only reason I got into this one is because it had the D&D tie-in, quite frankly. If it had been any other IP, I probably never would have tried it. Set to be released on October 7th. Yeah, I knew it was coming up. Now I'm super tempted. Hold on. Let me look at... If you missed it at the top of the stream, I said next weekend we're having the Sunday stream will be a more special stream, and I'll put an announcement about that on the subreddit. Maybe we play some Idle Champions and some Far Cry next Sunday? Maybe. Did you play the release version of Mass Effect 3 or the revised version, or both? Probably the revised version. When it came out, it was at a time when I didn't really have a lot of disposable income. So even though I really wanted to play Mass Effect 3, I couldn't afford to buy it. I just couldn't justify spending money on a video game at the time. So around that time, it was when I would wait until things would go on sale for, like, it used to be my trigger for buying something off of Steam was if it was on sale for like 60% or more. Depending on the initial cost. So I probably, I'm sure I played the other version. I also played Mass Effect Andromeda, and I have to say I really loved the story, but I understood all the complaints about the animation issues. That was jarring at times. Most of the time I could ignore it. I get why they tried to do that. I hate that they didn't go back and fix it. I would love to get the new updated version of Mass Effect, the series. Just to have it for the next time I want to play it, because the last time I played through, I had to play like the original 1 and 2, and ooh, that was painful. I enjoyed them when they came out, but now it's rough. Isn't magic just a different crystal sphere, but those are all still in the prime material plane? I don't know. I really like the whole crystal sphere cosmology thing. That's how I define my homebrew setting, as it being a one of the crystal spheres, but a unique one, kind of hidden away. Yeah. Always like messing with canon, however I wanted it at my own table, but I can see some people wanting to adhere strictly to canon if for no other reason to be able to use officially released materials without having to tweak them too much. That doesn't seem to be the complaints that they're like. The complaints I see is that, well, this character wouldn't do that. Like if you want Mordenkainen to show up at your table, or Elminster or Mert, right? It's, you know, if you don't play them the way that like they say is they think is canon, you know, they get upset, and it's like, or ooh, spoilers, earmuffs, folks. You don't want spoilers for Heroes of the Plains. Heroes of the Plains spoilers incoming. Okay, that kind of person who doesn't like canon stuff would have flipped their lid a couple weeks ago when Todd destroyed Waterdeep and everybody in it. Just as a side thing. Oh, by the way, everyone in Waterdeep is dead and the city's in ruins. Like, you know, that's definitely not canon. People would have lost it. It was still rough. Like, wait, what? Right? Yeah. But that's, to me, that's, you know, you sit down with your players before you start a game. You tell them, hey, this is the type of game I'm running. Are you open to this kind of way of thinking of running a game or not? If they aren't, then they're not the people that you invite to that table. Or you offer up multiple types of games. Like, we could run a game like this, we could run a game like this, or we could run a game like this. These are the 3 campaigns I'm willing to sit down and DM for the next 2 to 3 years, potentially. You know, which one as a group would you like to play? For me, it was like, hey, I went to the group that I have now, and I'm like, I'm looking for people that want to play a game, but, you know, who first I was like, who is available in certain times? And then I was like, okay, well, here's what I'm thinking about running. You tell me if you would be comfortable playing this game. If not, I will try to come up with something else. But they said they were okay with it, so that's what we're doing. You know, so we'll see what happens. I don't know. To me, it's like, look, I got away from a lot of the canon because I created a homebrew world, but that doesn't mean I can't use official stories in it. It just means I have to change the names, right? Like if it happened in Waterdeep, well, then I just have to have a city that's the same as Waterdeep, like similar to it in size and scope and contents somewhere in my world, and then I just place it there, right? Andromeda's animations didn't bother me much. I just didn't get drawn into the characters and storyline like I did with the first 3. I mean, that's fair. I liked the story. It's just, it was very much a, you know, we're starting a whole new colony and everything's a scratch and everything was new. And there was no real, you know, emotional attachment that you got used to with the other Mass Effect ones because this was a brand new story. I don't know. I thought it was good. I wish they had better synergy for the Heroes of Baldur's Gate. I never used most of them much, but just did a moment ago in Heroes Entourage and the Dead 3. Used all of them with the variant restrictions. There was 0 synergy from Krydal. The only one with a synergy ability because no one could be placed in the back 2 columns. I mean, that's... But that's, you're using them in a restricted situation. So yeah, I mean, if you use them anytime there's restrictions from a variant placed in, then you know you're potentially screwing the synergy of a group. But in general, yeah, I don't know. The Heroes of Baldur's Gate exist, but their issue is more that they are DPS heavy as a group, and that doesn't work in this game. With the current way characters are created, I liked that Dahani came in a little more flexible in that regard because some of her features could be support-ish. But she also, if she does end up in a group with other supports because of a restrictive variant, she has all champs damage upgrades when you level her up. And that, to me, is a big potential solution to, to the problems some champions have. Like, you never really want Dellen in your formation if she's not your primary DPS, because she offers absolutely nothing. Like, even in a restriction where she's the only other one you have, unless you're killing hit-based stuff, there's no point in putting her in. And in some cases, it might be detrimental to put her in. But if she had all champs damage every now and then, like an all champs damage 100% bonus is the same for Delana as a DPS as giving her DPS times 100. Like, you're still doubling the power of things. But, we see that in Dahani, and maybe we'll see that in other champions. So there isn't just so much of a, well, they're here, but they're not doing anything. Then you could have the moneylender Bert. I mean, sure. I will say, what I'm pulling out, my homebrew campaign is, it has a story arc that is wholly my own, in terms of the overall thing that's going on and what's going on in the world. But what I have done is tied it into the concept of this bastion of knowledge, and it's running Candlekeep Mysteries adventures as kind of the core adventures. I will have lots of other stuff going on too, some homebrew, some things pulled from other books, but the core of this is ultimately as if you were taking, even though Candlekeep Mysteries is supposed to just be a book where you take an adventure and you put it in your campaign, like one, you don't run them all. There's no commonality to them except that they trigger in Candlekeep. Well, I built with this storyline that fits in my world and how things are going on there. I've woven this thread of these stories so that they connect. Hopefully it works out. We'll see. I mean, the group only just finished its first adventure. Maybe? I don't know. They don't know. They went out the door, but I didn't tell them what was on the other side. So, suspense, folks. Suspense. Hyped about the newly announced Mass Effect showing spoilers. Who is Liara in it? We'll see. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't played the new versions, like the redid versions that they did of Mass Effect. I think they'd be good. I just haven't had the time. Haven't had any time. How about the layers mechanic? Is there much power there? Or does it fall off fast? I don't know. It's very hard to make it up through the layers, right? Gotta keep hitting the wrong load button. There we go. It's very hard to make it up through the layers. Well, it takes a lot of time. To get to layer 10 is when, after layer 10, she starts her permanent stacking mechanic, right? Layer 10 takes 6.6 million kills. So just for, that's your total you have to get to. So, I think it'll be a little while before people are there. I think people are simulating her numbers and finding her to be But I would rather have, I think it's a better situation than Toragar. It's definitely a better situation than Black Viper. It's not as good as Zorbu, and I'm fine with that because Zorbu is overpowered. So is Ashara. Yeah. So I think they're trying to find a happy place with these permanent stack mechanics, and I think this is a step in the right direction. But it's going to take a little while to see how well it works. People do all kinds of numbers when a champion comes out, and then only later to find out that they really weren't thinking about something that they should have been. Cough. Nova, cough. And it turns out that champion's really fantastic. So, situations can change. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, Ashara still wasn't the greatest DPS until Krull got his bug fix. In some cases, Krull and Zorbu can still outshine Ashara. So, you know. Dog, does Corazon's specialization make others neutral work with freely buff for neutral? No, because that's different types of neutral. You need to read where it's specifically it's talking about what axis it's on. There's 2 axes in Dungeons and Dragons. So Freely's on the lawful neutral chaotic axis. So he's dealing with that lawful chaotic side of things. Whereas Corazon's talking about the good neutral evil side. And that is listed for both of them. So Corazon's interacts more with Avron. Avron does that system, I think. Yeah, Avron does good neutral evil. Took me a second. I'm like, in my head, I'm upgrading Avron. I don't have Avron on this account, so I couldn't go check. Alright, what are we at? We're at, like, E100 damage. We're still killing everything, so we're good. Oh, I can take this off. Oh, it keeps loading up because I keep saving the formation. That's right. Alright, I'll have to keep removing that. I don't need to upgrade click damage anymore. But I don't want to change my save formation. I don't know. Maybe on this next load I'll get lucky and I can... Oh, I just pulled it back again. Guess who's back? Back again. Mage Hand's back. Spending your gold. Boom. Did it. Ha! Oh no, I forgot to... Ha! I did it. Okay. The Cake book would make for a great set of recurring antagonist NPCs just as much as you could use it for your players. You know, I have that. Hold on. Yeah. Yeah, this is, I mean, the stuff I've been reading lately has been campaign books because I'm trying to find things that would fit in with what's going on potentially in the future. In this homebrew campaign. So we'll see. And I've got a couple more books coming in. Like I have the Akink one, I have the Tal'Dorei one, like the older Tal'Dorei one. I have the Ravenloft one, obviously Candlekeep Mysteries. I have everything on D&D Beyond, but when I like to sit down and read campaign books, I want it usually in my hand. And then I picked up the Islands of Sina Una. I'm just waiting on that one to show up in the mail. And something else. And then I picked up a bunch of Kickstarter stuff, but that's not coming out yet. Still waiting on the Kickstarter things. Nova's great. Avron's just a little better buffer, sure. But the thing is sometimes I need sometimes I need a tank, right? And people were just kind of like, People were real uninterested in Nova until the Epic Game Store promotion, and people that were new figured out that Nova is pretty fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I was even always just kind of using the right spec for Nova, and I didn't even consider the left spec. And yeah, so you can get stuck in a mindset, and that's why I keep trying to do new player runs regularly, because if you get stuck in a certain mindset of how you're building formations and who you're using, it's very hard to get out of it. Stacked 600k onto Honey already. Nice. She doesn't one-to-one match up with Nova, or with Avron, but as we are able to push further and further and further, Nova gets better and better and better as an option. She's just has a huge, massive buff. I think I was showing earlier, it was like E16. Just by level like 550. On this account. What's her gear at? Yeah, I mean, she's got a mix of blues and purples, but not major item levels. So, I mean, I don't even have Averin on this account. So saying, well, Nova's not good. Averin, blah, blah, blah. That was just kind of the general sentiment. And whenever you kind of give that general sentiment, I try to stay away from that most of the time. Whenever you give that kind of general sentiment, new players pick that up and think that, oh, well, I just shouldn't use them. And it's like, no, there's always potential places to use people. That's why I said, like, there's only a couple champions in the game that I just don't find much use for in the current way the game's set up. And Rosie's one, Xander's one, Kreidel currently is one, Delina. Delina's actually, I think, in the middle of the pack. I don't think Delina's at the bottom anymore. But yeah, there are just some champions, only a very few, that are just kind of, they don't even do their own job very well. Lucy says she matches up after about 1,300, 1,400 zones. Well, guess what? Now the cap for zones is 1,495. So, unrelated idle champions, but I'm running my first campaign with a homebrew setting. Any advice on things to focus my prep work on? You're in the same boat as I am. This is my first ever campaign of any kind. I haven't even played in a campaign before. I always have to do things the hard way. I jumped right into home brewing my own campaign as the first time I ever campaigned in D&D. So, I will say I spent a lot of time building my campaign world, just as a general world, so I knew what was going on. I mean, it's been floating around in different forms in my head for like a decade or more. And I put a bunch of it down on paper, just as kind of a game design experiments, like trying to map out how things would work before I even thought it was going to be like a D&D campaign. Before I was really into D&D at all. So it was just a world, and it was my kind of mental experiment on designing an MMO. Like, how would I make things, like what kind of story, how would I make things, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm just transferring it into D&D where it fits way better. Way better. But yeah, I mean, I sat down and I started nailing out more distinct things, like about the place where it was taking place, like the kind of center place, and then trying to fill in some of the, like, I built a map for the world. Kind of cheesily drew a map for the world. And marked down locations and figured out where different major things would be. But again, I'm letting the adventure, a lot of it be like, I built out an overall narrative, but I'm letting the actual adventures that they're going on be these produced things that I can slightly adjust. But even though it's happening in a different place, like Wizards of the Coast came out and said, look, here's the one nice thing about this, about running homebrew, is that Wizards said, there are all these different worlds and planes and throughout the multiverse or whatever. And sometimes super powerful characters, like that power radiates throughout the multiverse, and they can have, different kind of mirror images. Like someone can appear that is also, with the same name, or maybe a great evil dragon appears on a different world that has that name and is the same, but because it's like this effect of the universe, right? So I 100% had Mordenkainen for the first adventure be somebody that people would know in this world. It's just not the same, who created spells and stuff, but it's not, not necessarily doing the same things as the Mordenkainen, like the canon D&D Mordenkainen is. But he is definitely a known figure, right? So you can get away with that kind of stuff. I don't know what your homebrew is set up as, but they're opening up what you can kind of blend into your homebrew campaigns. Hopefully without upsetting people. The aforementioned people who apparently think that a dungeon master isn't in charge of the story at their table. Are there any gem feats that are considered OP? I could get a Quasit or 3 epic feats. Sure. I mean, it depends on what champions you have. If you have Orkira, Avatar of Destruction, it's a big deal. This is the wrong account for me to really answer this question because I don't have access to everyone. Like Freely's Master Orator, the Adventurous Tale. It's only a swap in at the end of an adventure that you're doing favor farming on, but that's an 80% boost to the extra bonus favor he gives. I don't know that that's necessarily what you'd want first. Yeah, it's hard for me to tell on this account, but there are definitely some out there that are like 50k if you have those champions. Absolutely. If you've got it. Speaking of Averin, how come he doesn't buff Black Viper since he's a warlock? I don't know. If someone isn't triggering a buff for another champion in the game that's based off their class, then submit a ticket. Rob Sipes finally caught you live on your own channel. I usually see you in Cine Games. Hey, yeah, here I am. Sundays around this time we're usually here. Tuesdays, I also stream on my channel in the afternoons right after Bardic Inspiration. And Thursdays in the morning. The last few weeks, well, this week I was here again, but the few weeks prior to that I was streaming on the Cine Games channel on Thursday mornings. But that time slot I'm usually right over here. And then we go raid the Lauren and Sean Q&A show. Pretty frequently, Humble Bundle will do big drops of PDF books from various games. Might be a good source of other material to adapt. Yeah, you can definitely pull storylines through, even if it's not from a D&D based game. You just then have to, adapt the creatures and stuff. Because I've only ever played online with people, I do everything on D&D Beyond. And like when I was doing my prep for this first adventure, I built out all the potential encounters in their encounter system and made sure it was how it was reflected in the game or in the book. And then if we ran into that counter, I had it ready and I could just fire it right up. And if not, no big deal. And I'll continue to do my prep for that as we go into each section of the book. That will be my, prep, is just having that stuff ready. But it just makes it really easy. Curious why is Torg are not considered to be very good. It seems like enough item levels boost his support levels into the stratosphere. Maybe. Again, this is like that same thing is people have tried him and found him a little lacking, and so just kind of set him in that middle group of people who can play well but aren't overpowered, because most of the people at the top end only care about who's overpowered. So, he could definitely pull a Nova at some point, but his big problem is, he's potentially support, but it's the same thing that should make him a DPS, and he just doesn't double dip like Zorbu does, so he doesn't get, incredibly strong. Doesn't mean he's not viable. It's just, there's like a big, massive middle group of champions that are what I would call viable. And then there's, overpowered at the top, and then there's underpowered at the bottom. And people tend to only ever talk about the overpowered ones. And everybody else goes into a viability bucket. I'll be co-DMing my first 5e campaign in 2022 with a fellow librarian at our public library. That's awesome. Last D&D I played was in 1987. Wow. Homebrewing and all. That sounds cool, though. That's super cool. If I had been into... this would have probably raised some eyebrows at the time, but if I had been into D&D when I ran after school programs, I probably totally would have run a D&D campaign for the kids after school for part of the time, because there was like we did like the last hour ish, depending on what day, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours of a day, were kind of like a free time where they could do, board games or ping pong or foosball or play video games and just listen to music and hang out. And that would have been a good time to just sit down with the people who were consistently there all day and have a little fun with some D&D. But some parents would not have liked that, probably. I had one parent, I remember, I could not. We were very low budget, and if I could swing getting everybody to go to a movie, I tried. And I think the first time I ever got it approved was for Shrek, which, everybody was cool. All the parents were cool with me taking their kid to see Shrek. But then, the first Harry Potter movie came out, and it was like, oh, hell yeah, because everyone, well, almost everybody in my program had read Harry Potter, and I went to take them there. But one girl's mom was like, nope, magic is the devil's work. You can't take my kid to that. It's just like, ugh. It's a movie. It's a movie. So, yeah. Found some of the vids on Matthew Colville's YouTube channel useful. Yeah, I watched, at one point I sat down and watched every single running the game video. There's good stuff. It's not everything. I don't have to agree with everything he says, and I don't think he would want me to. But, there's lots of useful information there. Wait, Captions got Mordenkainen's name right? No, now it's More Than Payments. I saw it for a second. Mordenkainen. Hey! Nice. I'm not saving 50k gems until I have Carl's chest feet. Good idea. Good idea. Personally, since I'm super invested in Magic, I'm hoping they bring in a lot more Idle Champions characters in the Baldur's Gate set next year. Maybe even another cross promotion. I don't know. I haven't followed any of it after the Forgotten Realms one came out. Sorry if I missed it. What you mean by pulling over? Well, basically be seen by the community as not really worth your time because there's others in that slot that are really good. And then suddenly have it turn out that they're actually really good in certain situations, and you shouldn't ignore them, right? That kind of situation. Hope I'm doing great today. I mean, I get to stream. I had pizza for lunch. I got root beer. It's just mug root beer, so it's a 2-liter bottle today. Ooh, I do have a Twix over here, though. Package opening. Oh. So, I keep forgetting to pin these. I'm curious, since I'm not super familiar with Heroes of the Plains, how does Avern fit in? Is he an NPC companion, or was Todd not always the DM? Todd wasn't always the DM, but that changed very early on. That was back when it was called Heroes of the Vale. And then there was a shuffle with who was going to be on the show, and Todd ended up becoming the DM, so he kind of had to somewhat kill his character off, sort of. And then Avern became this character that was in the background and occasionally interacting with because everybody knew him, and he was Lindra's dad, and all that stuff. And then when they did the Silver and Steel section, when it was DM'd by Jasmine Bular, that bronze girl, which was that was a fantastic series. Avon was actually playing as one of the characters, but now it's kind of back to. I think the current canon is like, well, I don't know. There's a lot of different versions of Avon, but Avon's not around, so they included him as Heroes of the Plains, but technically. That's their group name for these people that have been playing off and on through this kind of storyline for years now through across multiple different shows. D&D was pretty controversial early on. You'd definitely be raising eyebrows. Well, this wasn't early on. This would have been like 99 through 2001. Even then, again, because that's when Harry Potter came out. So, yeah. Even then, it probably would have upset some people. Yeah, right. Reminds me of one of Rowan Atkinson's shows when he read the Bible that was describing Jesus making magic tricks. Yeah. Don't point out people's hypocrisy. They don't like it. They don't like it. Yeah. A lot of complaints about things come from people just not. One person being upset about it and then assuming something happens, but no one, and then spreading that information about what they assume happens, but no one actually reading and or watching and or listening to it to know what's actually going on. It's actually going on. Because if they had, they would have realized, oh, hey, and more often than not, you're playing adventures that are killing things, the demons and devils and stuff. Yeah. Oh well. Reminds me of when everybody got super upset. What was it, last year? Little Nas X's video where he slides down a stripper pole, gives a lap dance to the devil, and they were like, "Oh, he's promoting Satanism and the devil." Yeah, sex with the devil. That was actually what I saw clips from some pastor on the pulpit talking about. I'm like, you clearly didn't watch this. This isn't about. Yeah, no. This is just you and your, white outrage. Because if you haven't seen the video, yes, he does slide down a stripper pole into hell and give a lap dance to the devil. Then he snaps his neck. Yeah. So you'd think that would be, yes, killed the devil. Let's put more of that into videos nowadays. That's what we want to see. No. So I don't know. If you hear people complaining about something and they've got a lot of outrage about it, maybe learn a little bit about it before just agreeing blindly with them. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, got it. So interesting. So does that mean Idle Champions recurring hero of the Veil is reference to their old campaign? No. That's just a thing. That's the hero of the Veil. Yeah, it was a completely different world, I think. I don't know. Man, trying to keep track of all the things that the Heroes of the Plains have done since they first started their groups and had different people with them. Exhausting. What's going on, Niskus? So if you joined us partway through, I'm attempting to do Zapper Overload, the regular version, on my Epic Games account. Simply because I figured, hey, I should probably show people just that it's not as difficult. I mean, you do have to mind the game the whole time, but it's not as difficult as people necessarily make it out to be. How far do I have to go? 375. I'm going to need some more power. What do we got? E99. Oh, yeah, okay. Now's the time. Now is the time. Where we do fire breath potions. Let's use some speed potions. Because we really are now relying... We want to just kill things quickly. Because the Zapper may pull out our DPS. At any given time, so we want to rely on our Bud to get us through. Except on the boss levels. Except on the boss levels. Unfortunately... dang it, Dinar. You knocked him back out of your own pool. Alright, we got him anyway. But yeah, like right there, we lost our DPS. Part of that. Never said it was difficult, annoying. Well, I've heard people call it the worst variant of the game, like the most difficult variant of the game. Like they use different terms. I like to use the term annoying, but yeah, everybody's got to have their own hyperbole, I guess. I don't even find it the most annoying. I think we were talking about this earlier. To me, the most annoying is the one where you get different champions to use in your formation every 25 levels. That's in Tomb of Annihilation. That's the most annoying one in the game. Because this, you can go into a strategy. All I had to do at the beginning was build a formation and save it. And that's it. And now the rest of the run, all I do is hit the load formation button every time I change a level. That's it. Literally all I have to do. With the other one, you have to literally build a formation out every 25, a new one every 25 levels. And because it's full RNG, you could get to a point where you just don't have any tanks and you've wasted all of your time and you have to start over. Just start completely over. And hope that the next time around, the RNG is in your favor. So, yeah. Copy of an old RPG system called Holy Lands, which is basically trying to be D&D with any potential satanic panic objections washed away. I don't know. I mean, I was in Oklahoma at the time D&D came out, so, you know, it's very much still part of the Bible Belt. And that was just... living in the middle of nowhere, there wasn't anywhere like a game store that you would run into it. So it wasn't anything I ever got to interact with. I knew a couple people that had D&D books, but they were never like, hey, do you want to play D&D? Because I lived in the middle of nowhere, so it wasn't like I ever got to hang out with them anyway. So my only experience with D&D forever was books, and then later video games. So... until last year, when Lauren ran a game for me. Not anymore, just moved to a different core and back. It randomizes the available champions again? What? That sounds... that sounds like a problem. Yeah. I don't see why it would do that. But then again, yeah, the other day I just found out that the stacks that you build on a champion aren't attached to the champion. They're attached to the adventure you're on. So if you pull this champion out, if I pulled Akira out and put her into a different party, and then brought her back, like she would be at 0 stacks over there, but when I bring her back over here, she's back to these. Even though I have to level her up from 1 all over again, she still keeps all of her stuff. That was a shocker. I don't think it was Akira specifically we were looking at. But yeah, we were swapping champions back and back. Who was that? It was, Briv does it with steel bones too? Wow, yeah. I don't remember. It was when we were trying to do a Sarah X puzzle the other day. And I can't remember which champion it was. But I was shocked to find that it didn't just reset all the stacks. Esmeralda. Yes, it was Esmeralda. Brunor survived, split the party 1 and 2. Yeah, Brunor. Greatest Dwarven King. You try to split the party and he just doesn't let you. Wow, I didn't even fully load in yet and they had zapped out that... Jeez, that's rude. Rude. That's... Come on, Lucille. There we go. Walk right through the vomit. Yep. All right. Yeah, and it was also the long rest stacks between Beetle and Grim. That and Esmeralda. I was just shocked. I thought I was going to lose all of them. But nope, the adventure saves it. God, they removed it again? Stop targeting my tank line. Turns out, Zapper likes Dragon Bait. If you have an epic item at max level, like Sentry's Speed item, and you land a shiny on that item, what happens with the extra levels? At the last year, you get them back. Blacksmith Scrolls. You don't get anything refunded currently. If it was max as a shiny and you get golden, does it happen the same way as max epic? So these are a lot of different questions. If you have an epic item at max level and you land a shiny on that item, first of all, that shouldn't it may go shiny, but what it would do is it would just over level the item. It wouldn't change anything about it. I mean, it might, with that instance, because it's 100, it can read over 100%, but that bonus doesn't do anything. So you could probably take it shiny, but you're not getting refunded anything currently. If it was max as a shiny and you get a golden, what that does is it becomes golden, but again, it doesn't change anything because you are already at max, and it refunds you a potion of polish. Because that's what happens when you put a golden on any kind of shiny. I had asked for something the community had been asking for forever and had kind of, I think, gave up on, honestly. I think the community asked for a couple of years and they never did anything about it, so they stopped asking. But it had been getting refunded overcapped item levels back. And also on Developer Insights, we got Justin to say, yes, we're doing that. It was my understanding it was going to happen with the anniversary. It didn't happen. So now we got it once Developer Insights comes back. I already know my first question is going to be like, hey, Justin, what happened to that max item level refund that was going to arrive with the anniversary? It most likely just got put on the back plate in terms of making sure it was activated because of everything else that was going on, but I would just like an ETA. And I don't know how that's going to work. I think the way that, if I recall, the way he explained it was that it sounded like it was just going to redistribute those extra item levels among the other items on that champion, which is definitely one way to do it. I personally would have preferred... Because that's what would have happened if it had capped, and then you'd kept putting item levels into it. They would have gone on the rest of the champion. I would have liked blacksmith contract refunds, but yeah, it's most likely just going to get redistributed amongst the other items. Which is why, like on my main, I actually bought like the golden epic for Briv's ultimate cooldown item, because after they said, well, we're going to get those refunds, it was like, well, then this makes sense. Because I don't know if it's going to be it can't just be a one-time refund, right? It has to be a constant thing. I don't know. We got to get that locked down from them as well. If you buy one of the GEs from the patron shop and you have a shiny in that slot, does it give you a polish? Yes. If you have a shiny on any item and you get a GE for it, for that same item that's already shiny, in any way, it refunds you a potion of polish. Yeah, that's how that works. It's just, but here's the thing: if you're just opening chests and you get a shiny, like if you have a pack of chests from the store that guarantees a shiny for a champion that you already have fully gilded, you don't get a potion of polish. It's just going to give you a duplicate, and you get 125 item levels for that duplicate wherever it lands. This new player, is it worth saving potions of polish until I get all core evergreen to full shiny, or just use them? So on this account, oh, that reminds me. On this account, I've been using my potions of polish. Instead of saving them, because honestly, I have no plans on this account to ever continue it super far. Like, it will get either reset or just shelved at some point. But in your normal gameplay, it's going to take a very long time to get full core epic shiny, depending on how much you play. I mean, but it's going to take a lot of play time. So if you want to play that long-term game and hold those potions of polish, you can. But you don't necessarily have to. You don't necessarily have to. That's kind of your choice you have to make. It is long-term more efficient to hold on to them and wait until your full core and evergreen is shiny, and then pop them so that they're guaranteed to go on event champions. But you could be waiting a very long time depending on how long you play, and it may just be better for you to get the power out of that right away, or at least get it out of the way. Did Justin mention anything about how that will affect items that have been capped but without an epic rarity on them? No, he didn't. I think that specifically usually revolves around either Briv or Human, where people just dumped outrageous numbers of blacksmithing contracts on it without waiting to get it epic first. I don't know how how much they prioritize something like that, because there probably have to be something special done. But you're welcome to. I feel attacked. But you're welcome to bring it up. I mean, that's what Developer Insights is for. Ask and see if they answer. Unless you're getting champions to really high item levels, shinies don't have enough of effect to worry about. Yeah, I mean, you're just getting a 50% bonus to whatever's going on, but that's your item levels are usually affecting what's going on. If you've only got 8 item levels, it's like it has 12. This is the rough comparison would be like it has 12 item levels. Once you start getting, like, once you have 100, though, I mean, that's a bigger deal, right? It takes a little longer to get 50 than it does to get 4. Yeah. How many blacksmith contracts is an outrageous amount? Thousands? Probably. I don't know. It depends on the level of blacksmithing contract. People dump a lot in Briv and Human. A lot. More in Briv than Human. Human, I think, gets to his number you want quicker than... Well, I mean... You don't really care about going over a certain number with Human. But with Briv, he keeps getting more jump levels. They really should have capped it. In both of those cases. Speed champions should... we were talking earlier about, like, you know, certain champions coming in and not necessarily preparing for how they might get abused in the meta. Speed champions 100% need a pass during development for, like, okay, where do we cap this at? You know, Sentry got capped. She didn't have to. They were smart. They capped her at 100%. They could have done the thing where, well, anything over 100% could reduce it another value. They didn't. I don't know why they didn't keep that mentality with everybody else, but yeah. Can you help me understand Ariza? Her second skill set is a bit confusing with the dependency to her friend, which is another hero. Yeah, I don't have Ariza on this account. So hold on. I just got to pull that information up somewhere else. Basically, she wants to work alongside Vlanya because they're both Sirens of the Realms. That's another group hopefully we'll get more of at some point. That'd be cool. Hold on. Where is Ariza? See, oh, there she is. Fleet's Wake. So yeah, Bardic Connection. So she seeks out Vlanya in the formation and basically buffs anyone between her and Vlanya. But if you don't have Vlanya, so that's basically like you're drawing a line. So say if that was a thing here and we had Vlanya like right here and Ariza was up here, it would buff everybody that was in between, right, along that path. Sometimes you can arrange it so there's multiple paths that are of equal length and thus buff even more people. Not that it matters because it's just an all champs damage buff, but it might. But if Vlanya is not in the formation, then that buff just turns into an adjacency buff, but at a quarter effectiveness. So reduces the effectiveness because you don't have that extra character. Generally speaking, trying to like Vlanya isn't super strong currently, but if you are in a situation where you have her and you need to use them together, that's how they work. That's how they work. Does an item level itself up through item levels? For the white items, could you upgrade them to purple through blacksmith? Oh, no. Because these are two different things. There are item levels and there are rare. There's rare. Well, there's now 4 different things. The first system is rarity. That's the white, green, blue, purple system. So regardless of what rarity you get as your first card, the very first time, that's a level 1 item. Then you can start leveling up its item levels, and it's the item level for that slot. So as you upgrade through the rarity, it keeps its item levels. But the only way to upgrade rarity is to loot the higher rarity. So you could, with the worst luck in the world, actually, I don't even think this is possible. Well, okay, if you only ever opened silver chests and you always got horrible luck and it stayed white, you could end up with a white item with 1,000 item levels on it. I mean, that's never going to happen just because of how the upgrades work, but you get the idea. But then you upgrade the rarity separately. And then there's gilding, which it starts out normal like this, and then it can become shiny like this, and then it can become golden if you buy it. Hey, we finished. Awesome. Wow. Zapper overload done. Ding 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 ding. So then there's